Hello, welcome back to Generational Change. Today's topic that I want to talk about is fear versus respect when it comes to child rearing. The first thing I want to ask is, what is the difference between fear and respect? When you fear someone, you do something to avoid a consequence. You do something because you're scared. When you respect someone, you value that person for who they are and for what they have to contribute in your upbringing and in your life. I want to ask you, are we raising children with an authoritative parenting technique, which is fear-based? Or are we raising a child in a more healthier environment, more positive environment based on respect? Today, I want to talk about the effects that we cause when raising a child in a fear-based approach. Alan Kasdan, the director of the Parenting Center at Yale University, informs that when a child is raised in fear, they grow up to feel resentment. A child will grow up to resent their caregiver, the person that raised them. Why? Because they have so many negative emotions that they couldn't express as children that eventually it causes friction in that relationship. And I know a lot of people like this. I know a lot of people that grow up and hit their parents, grow up and curse their parents out or just dismiss what they have to say. They just don't respect their parents at all. And let me tell you, I don't blame them. This is what they learned. This is what they were taught. A child may also experience psychological damage, which can later affect their relationship and social interactions. This is because that child is learning to normalize the abusive and verbal behavior that their parents engage in. The way that they're raised, that's what they're thinking is the right way to act towards others. So if a child is doing something bad and they get mom mad or they get their caregiver mad, that caregiver is going to hit them. So when the child goes to school, they're going to hit somebody else because that person made them mad. We cannot blame them for that. Children may also experience psychological damage, and this can later affect their social interactions with other people. And this is going to affect them because they learn to normalize that aggressive behavior. So to them, hitting someone is normal. They see nothing wrong with it. Being a social worker and being an educator, I've had many students or even kids that I work with that are bullies. And when I talk to them, they tell me, well, my mom hits me. When I'm a bad kid, my dad hits me. And if my dad hits me when I'm being bad, why can I hit somebody else when they're being bad, when they're doing mean things to me, when they're doing this to me? And instead of giving them consequences, we need to help them verbally express themselves in a healthier, more positive way. We need to ask them, do you think this is right? When that happens to you, how do you feel? So the child starts to empathize with their victim. They start to really think about their actions, because when we punish them, if we are quick to give them a consequence and we punish them and they're like, you know what, you're going on a timeout. Or as a parent, you know what, you hit somebody, I'm going to hit you now so you could feel what they felt like. And as Alan says, this is going to affect their morality, because if a child does not know how to express their needs and wants, he's not going to know how those needs and wants can be met in a respectful manner and with fairness. And if he doesn't know how to do that for himself, he is not going to learn how to do that for somebody else. So we need to teach our kids right from wrong from the very beginning. It is wrong for us to teach a child that when he's bad, we're going to hit them because that's what he deserves. Instead, let's talk to them. Let's build a conversation. Why did you do this? Let's get them thinking. Physical abuse isn't the only way to make a child be afraid of you. Verbal abuse is also one. When we threaten kids, when we yell at them, when we call them out of their name, that also creates fear in a child. And when they're scared of you, they're gonna lie. we're starting to create a generation of children that tend to lie often. And they lie because they're afraid. Did you do this? No, I didn't. Who did it? So and so did it. Why? Because they don't want to get in trouble. They don't want to get hit. They don't want to get timeouts. They don't want to have a negative repercussion because they did something. Maybe it was an accident, but because it was an accident, now they're afraid to be honest with you. So we need to start rethinking the way that we talk to our children. We need to start thinking of how we can show them respect, because after all, they're kids. They're still people. If you don't show a child respect, they are not going to respect you. They're going to fear you and they're going to do what you ask them to do, but that doesn't mean that they respect you. So we need to start parenting for ourselves. We need to start parenting for our children, because oftentimes we tend to modify our parenting styles and techniques based on what other people think of us, based on what society wants us to do with our kids. Perfect example, when a child is having a tantrum at the store, you know, parents' perspective and the parents' point of view, we're embarrassed. We're like, oh my God, what is this person saying? They're going to think my child is crazy. They're going to think that I can't manage my child. They're going to think that I can't control my child. And then we react, not because of what my child is doing. I'm going to react, or we're going to react based on the reactions of the people around me. And that's not right. The child is probably tired. He or she wants something, but they can't really express themselves. From my own experience, my youngest child has a speech impediment, and she gets extremely frustrated when I don't understand what she's saying. And I try my best, and she becomes frustrated and she cries. And I am one of those parents that I don't care. I don't react based off the people around me. I react based on what I know my child needs. My child is crying. She's having a tantrum because she wants something and I don't know what she wants and she can't express herself. So what do? I go down to her level and I say, breathe. You know, there's interventions that you can do, coping mechanisms, but we'll talk about that on our next video. But anyway, I intervene and I am able to react to calm my child, to understand her better. But a lot of us, sometimes we don't feel that way. Sometimes we feel judged, we feel embarrassed, and we react and we're angry because my child embarrassed me. Oh my God, you're so embarrassing. You did this and you should have seen the way that those people don't matter. And I'm going to tell you again, those people do not matter. Those people don't live with you. So who cares if they think you're a bad mom? Who cares if they think that you can't control your grandkid or your godson or your niece or nephew? Who cares? You need to start thinking about your child. You need to start thinking of the child that's having a tantrum. How can we help that child instead of being mad, instead of reacting with anger or embarrassment or shame? Let's start thinking of how we can raise our kids in a safer environment to feel comfortable. And if you're the person that's at the store judging this person that has the kid that's having a meltdown, and you're like, if that was my kid, I would have, this and that. I would have already done this. Oh, my kid knows better than that. You need to start thinking, how can I help this family? Let's look within ourselves and think, why do I feel that way? Why do I feel that a child can be controlled, that a child is not going to have a tantrum at all in a social setting? Because that's unrealistic. That's an unrealistic expectation. And we need to start thinking, how can we help somebody? Instead of judging them, a simple gesture. Hey girl, we all go through that. Or I've been there, don't worry. And you're at the store, that's gonna help the mom or whoever is with that kid. I tell you, the simple things. We need to stop judging these parents. We need to stop judging these caregivers. Instead, you don't know what they're going through. A child might have a speech impediment, like I said, mine does. You don't know if that child has a developmental delay. or autism, which a lot of stimulation can trigger, a tantrum. There's a lot of things that could be going on in that child's life and in that parent's life, in that caregiver's life, that we don't know. And we're just making it harder for them. So we need to start thinking about changing our mentality. Instead of judging, we need to understand, we need to empathize with that person and help them. If possible, help them. Have a good day. Have a good weekend. I'll see you guys next week. And hopefully you like this video.
Welcome back to Generational Change. Today we're having a baking activity. Okay, so she's going to be using measuring cups. She's going to be reading the instructions to see what she needs in order to bake the cake. And so is she. Okay, so she's mixing in your water. She's measuring her oil. And then she's going to pour out her cake mix. Usually the cakes are made from scratch, but today, just for the purpose of the video, we're using it out of the box. So meanwhile, they can be working, the little one can be working on her fine motor skills. She can be working with her fine motor skills. You can do it with your hands if you like, okay? So she can feel the texture, okay? And then right here with her, as she mixes water and oil, you see that water and oil do not mix. Meanwhile, she's adding her flour to the mix. How does that feel?
Do I have the whole thing?
Yeah. How does that feel on your fingers?
Sticky, it's feel.
It's sticky, it's cold, okay. So she's learning how to measure. She's reading the instructions, following step-by-step instructions. Go ahead. You're gonna crack it, try to crack it. And then while we try to do the same with the young ones, it's more about the experience and the sensory and kind of seeing everything come together when it comes to making a cake.
Wow.
As you can see, she did need a little bit of my assistance, kneading it and making sure there's no lumps in it. So that's what we're trying to get done now. She's gonna go ahead and pour it in there. What tastes as good. And then the baby here has her all nice and mixed. She's been mixing it. We're working her fine motor skills, so we're gonna pour it into a separate little dish shortly.